What's up, guys? Back here in the dumpster. It's been a little bit, and we have two special guests with Goodhart Sons. So we have Mark, and then we have Heather. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, you guys coming on. We, Dan, Eileen, and I came out and toured your guys' facility like a month ago, and it was great to kind of get engaged and like see some of the stuff that you guys are doing before the pod. So we appreciate you guys coming on.
Absolutely.
First time on the podcast.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
First time ever.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, my first question for you guys, can you kind of, starting with Mark then Heather, describe your career journey, whether it was a straight path or kind of all over the place, kind of just explain how you got here.
Yeah, well, so my career path, I mean, growing up, I grew up in the business. Started when I was 12 years old, Christmas breaks, summer breaks, and from there, went to college and was majored in business management and marketing, and kind of always knew I wanted to be in the business, but as I progressed through that journey, got to spend some more time. We had longer breaks at Christmas, and I really, longer summer breaks, and I really found a connection with our guys on the floor. Really loved just getting dirty with the guys and getting to know our employees. And there was a period, like as I was coming towards graduation, after 4 or 5 years in college, I told my dad, I was like, you know what, I think I could just see myself going back out onto the floor after college. And he thought differently from that. He was just like, well, I appreciate that, but you don't have to come into the business, but if you do, I think I'd like to bring you into sales. So I started my career into the company full-time in sales. That was 1994. Worked in that for many years. Worked on the fab sales of our company, field service sales. Progressed into project management from there. Became our director of VP of sales in like 06. And then my dad was, I give him a lot of credit. Checked his ego at the door. He started the succession plan very early in his career. So in 08, my brother and I actually took over the business. And we became president. We did a co-president model between myself and brother Chad. And he stayed on, and it was really great. We always called him the wisdom pool. We had a lot of different types of situations and challenges, and we went to our wisdom pool for that. And we kind of learned the business while still running the business for a period of time under his tutelage. And like I said, been in this role of president of the company since 2008, so 16 years.
I think it's also worth mentioning, Mark's the fourth generation of Goodhart Sons.
Yeah, that's always great to see. Yeah. Like when we came in, we learned that Sod's is third generation. It's just crazy to see how a family business can kind of last that long and grow at the same time.
Well, and the percentage of businesses that last, year over year or generation over generation just starts to really dwindle. And I think it's something like 3% of businesses make it to the fourth generation. So we like to, tout that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Here's thin.
Yeah. So how's your, thank you for sharing that. How's your kind of career background and path to where you are today?
So I've always worked in sales, starting in high school. I'd worked in sales, and then had gone to school wanting to do public relations. Ended up, not being as great at school as I had hoped. So I ended up leaving and had just gotten a job in sales, car sales, and then it was mobility sales, and then it was a few other odds and ends in between there, but ultimately ended up in software sales. And then I got to the point where I was ready for something new, and that company in particular was a startup, and I knew I wanted to get in with a company that had been around for a while. So I found one, that had been around for almost 90 years. But it was one of those things I really sought out a company I was looking at it as architecture, engineering, construction. It was kind of what I was looking for. And I found Goodhart Sons and applied, and I think it was Mark said, when he was interviewing me, was looking for somebody with no experience.
That's an interesting dynamic, right? So we, in the sales and business development role, we had a lot of great salespeople that worked with us through the years and with us for many years, and there were some retirements. Hired some business development directors that had a really neat and long pedigree on paper. For whatever reason, things didn't work out, and after about 2 or 3 of those rounds, I went to the board and I said, man, I think we're really just going to look for somebody with no experience that is bright, moldable, teachable, trainable. And we found that, and it's been coming up on 5 years now.
Yeah.
Since you've been on.
Yeah.
So
What did you find is the advantage of hiring? Because like I feel like not a lot of companies can hire for that way. How have you kind of seen the advantage to that for your company?
as far as no experience in the role.
Yeah.
Well, again, we always, and this goes on to our floor too. We hire attitude. We hire personality. We hire those traits. We look for that. Those come through in the interview process. I like to feel like we're pretty decent at filling that out. But yeah, we bring and hire that way, and we bring that on board. We always say we'll teach the skills. We'll teach the path. We'll teach the strategy. But if you have that DNA of mobile, teachable, trainable, and a good attitude,
Yeah.
that's it.
Those are the soft skills, right? Being able to hire for the soft skills, I think, makes a big difference, and you can teach those other skills.
You can read those pretty quickly, I'm guessing.
Very much so. I mean, sometimes, no, I mean, we've been wrong, obviously, many times, but generally speaking, I think that's something, and I look at our recent hiring trends and what we brought on board, more times than not, we've been right.
That's awesome. Which is pretty cool.
It kind of like same thing to talk about hiring, like for that type of stuff, which you guys feel is a little more, like you can teach kind of working in the fab shop, stuff like that. You kind of share that same thought with Dan and Mike, so that's pretty good. Another thing, we were looking at kind of your core values, kind of how you guys lead the company that way, and another thing that we shared was sense of urgency in our core values. How do you kind of, what stuck out with you about that one in particular, and how did you come up with your core values?
Well, the core values were really distilled down from my grandfather's company objectives. So probably early 70s, my grandfather put forth the company objectives. I believe there was 11 or 12 of them, and why they were good, why they were poignant, they weren't memorable. If you went up to anybody in our shop, what are our company objectives? No one could sit there and recite them. So what we did, again, talking with our board, said we need to look at our core values, and we really set forth to make them not aspirational. It's great to have aspirational core values, and we see that with a lot of other companies, and that's wonderful. We wanted to say, okay, what separates us from the pack? What is in our DNA, day in and day out? It's not aspirational. We're living it, breathing it, feeling it every day. And we landed, and we wanted to make them memorable, but we wanted to distill them down from our grandfather's company objectives, and we did. The golden rule was verbatim. That was his number one. Treat others as you wish to be treated. That was, we copied that, chapter and verse. Commitment, that's an all-encompassing word for us. What I tell each and every new hire, I meet, greet with them, go through our core value, I tell them this exact same speech. Our commitment is really simple. You go to the wall for me, I'm going to go to the wall for you twice as hard. When we are lean on work, we're going to do everything in our power to not try and have to lay you off. And I can count on the times we've had to go through layoffs in my tenure, and going back, beyond that, I can count. There's less than on my right hand times we've had to do that in 30 to 40 years. However, I'm asking a commitment from you that when we are busy and we got to push product out the door and we got to make dates and we have liquidated damages, that penalties that we don't hit our dates, that you're going to go to the wall for me and you're going to work the hours that we need to get it done. So there's the commitment there, but that commitment also extends to our customers, of course, extends to our community,
And our vendors.
and philanthropic, and our vendors, and our faith. We don't tout that, but my grandfather was a very faith-driven man, and we have that commitment too that we try to reach out.
And something that you'll notice with our core value logo, Mark, you can speak to this, but the values go in a circle for a very specific reason.
Not one of them trumps the other. They all feed off each other. So,
I think it goes to show a lot about like company kind of since your grandfather. I'm sure back when he was running the business and in the grind of it all, like even to put together company objectives, Like,
Oh, he was
I'm sure that was
Yeah.
probably more forward thinking than a lot of people.
He was very forward thinking,
Yeah.
very, very the quintessential entrepreneur, very smart, risk taker, and was, I'm amazed as I cleaned out his office when he passed, just the thoughts that he collected in notes and the speeches that he gave to our employees over the years, letters that he wrote to the senators and to Congress back in the day. He was very much on top of it. I want to go back. You asked about sense of urgency in particular. The final thing in our core value is sense of urgency, and really, I sum it up because I ask each new hire, what does that mean to you? And hurry up to get the job done. Well, no, that's not what that means. We want to work safely and efficiently, but we want to work proactively. We don't want to work reactively. Make your steps count. Make your actions matter. Think ahead. There's 16 other things behind us that we got to get done. Let's knock this one out and get on to the other one. We'll do it smart and safe. The right way.
Did you guys have a tough time when you were sitting down to pick the core values off of like the objectives from before? Because it's inherently kind of in you, and when it's inherently in you, I'm sure it's harder to kind of put that into words because you do it regardless.
It took the board of directors 2 years to land on it. Every board meeting we tee it up. I remember the first board meeting to talk about our core values, and that's everyone has their core values. You can see that on almost every company today. Some of our third generation owners that were still active in the business were like, what's wrong with our company objectives? So there was a bit of a hurdle to just kind of get on board with having core values. Once we got past that hurdle to land on them, there was a lot of back and forth. And I probably have 6 or 7 different revisions of stuff that we set out. Again, we started out and there was probably 5 or 6 of them. Well, aren't some of these, I say, aspirational? Well, yeah, let's back up. What separates us from the pack? So we, through back and forth and just really kind of focusing on it and not making a quick decision, landed us to what we ended up.
They weren't just buzzwords, they weren't just chosen because they were buzzwords. You can really tell, especially, me coming into the business and only being in it 5 years, which seems like a drop in the bucket compared to some of these other guys and how long they've been in the business. You can just tell that there was a lot of thought that was put into it. And I remember actually in my interview that being one of the things that had come up as part of that. And 2 years later, then it was like, okay, like we're ready. We've hashed this out. We know exactly how we want to present it. There was a lot of thought that went into it, which I think is, just kind of speaks to how seriously it's taken.
For sure. Taking a step back kind of to your guys' website, we see you guys work in any industries pretty much. Could you explain kind of what industries you guys work with and kind of what you have to offer to your customers?
Yeah, so we have field services and we have fabrication. So as far as working in all kind of businesses, we are a job shop, so we really don't have a product line of our own. We have like one item really that we have that is our design that we sell to our customers. And I'll let you talk about that if you want to. But as far as what the industry is, it's really driven by what our customer needs. I mean, we could be doing, gosh, I don't know, like aerospace. We could be doing food and beverage, cement, aggregate. I mean, it literally just depends on our customers who want it.
If I look historically, probably traditional power gen has been probably in the fab space that we have has been our biggest industry. One of the ways that we've always looked at things is we call them nucleus projects, like a big, large man-hour project. We always like to have at least one of those in the shop and in the field, but primarily in the shop as well. And then we work with small to mid-sized projects around there. And we found that over time that the biggest projects, that our nucleus projects are in power generation more than anything, or alternative energy is another big thing that we're into these days. Waste energy, biomass, pollution, and pollution control is very interesting. We do a lot of our projects are pollution control driven through technology providers, but they touch just about every major industry.
It was definitely cool seeing going through your guys' shop. There was different, like you see something for aerospace here, and then you go out and do food and beverage. It's just you guys work on different stuff like that. Yeah. Is it hard to kind of juggle because you like to have a massive job in the shop at all times? Is it it hard to kind of manage those jobs with the small jobs at the same time?
Believe it or not, the larger jobs often are easier to manage. You have more runway to plan and prep. Deliveries are generally out there. Small to mid-size, like the margin for error, you've got to be nimble, you've got to be quick, they want it quick generally. If you make a mistake, it's going to be very quickly from that. Whereas in a large job, you can find your center easier if you get a little bit off track. So I'd say the small and mid-size are sometimes
what would you say is like the most challenging, biggest job that you've seen come through because you've been there?
Yeah, I've been there. There's one that comes to mind. It goes back 20 years. It was in the hydro space. So we had a very crucial part. I won't get into specifics of what we were doing in it, but it was a very crucial part of a hydro facility. And our customer was a massive company that had recently just got into the space of hydro. And it was their first foray or first entrance into that space. And it did not go well for them. They were struggling on that project. And the components that we built, they were crucial parts of this build. There was some issues, and I'm not saying that we say lily white in it. There was maybe a small tolerance issue that we had to work through. But I feel that, and I know others that were involved in it feel that we became the scapegoat in that with this company that the trials and tribulations that they were having on this massive project, they were looking for any route of escape that they could kind of recoup some funds. So long story short, there were some massive back charges on the table from that. And rather than roll over, I remember vividly, we mobilized crews day and night to go down to the facility. We had already delivered the project. And to go and retrofit whatever they claimed that this mistake was, we went and to retrofit this mistake and figured it out, worked day and night, working Thanksgiving Day, day and night. And the problem was, the claim was that if we didn't get this done at a certain time, this whole project was going to be in jeopardy, right? And that the issues were going to magnify tenfold. So we had a strict timeline to retrofit and do what we had to do to correct this issue, and we did. And I remember vividly, towards the end of working day and night with crews to try to figure this out, we got it corrected, got it fixed. And I remember being the very, very bottom part of this dam, and my cousin and I were down there after this, and I said to him, because we were worn out, we were tired, we felt defeated. He's like, I said to him, in jest, I said, I wouldn't mind maybe if these gates kind of failed down here and maybe we just got swept away. Just because that's how defeated at that point in time. But we persevered, we got it done right, and everybody was happy at the end. Everybody, shook hands and hugged and all that stuff. But it was a real lesson for me of perseverance. It was also a lesson to me to pay attention to the small details, pay attention to your contracts. One word in a contract can shape an outcome on a job. So we always tell our folks to fail forward. If you're going to fail forward. That was definitely an issue for us where we failed forward, and we honestly came out of that better company.
Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest thing you guys kind of took from that job and carried it forward to where you guys are today? Because I'm sure you ran into more issues maybe than the group.
Well, the biggest, when we changed some practices coming from that. One of the things that we instituted directly after that is a request for information. If something is not abundantly clear, never, ever, ever make an assumption. Question, RFI, request for information, and make sure that you have everything documented. So we really started an IFI, what we call an RFI process, coming from that on these larger jobs, and that was when you said a nuclear job, that was one of those massive projects. They're absolutely paramount to keep an RFI log on every project that you have. So coming from the heels of that, we implemented that.
There's definitely no stupid questions when it comes to a job.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, we'll get RFQs that run the gamut from 3-inch thick piles of paper that have all these specifications to literally a one-line sentence in an email of, hey, can you fab this for us? Or, and it's like, you have to be able to kind of run the gamut between those and understand, like, which projects do you really need to make sure you have your I's dotted, your T's crossed, you understand exactly what the scope is and what's expected of you, and which customers you're working with that, they're down the street and they work with them regularly, and okay, great, we have an understanding of what we're doing here. So I think that that's also an important thing to kind of take from that is there's going to be some projects you really need to make sure that you have your I's dotted and your T's crossed.
For sure, that's awesome. When we were on your guys' website and watching the core values video, it's definitely hard to miss that you guys started as a two-man shop. Can you kind of explain how you guys transferred from a two-man shop to the company you guys are today?
Yeah, well, obviously, my great-grandfather, Generation 1, he was a true craftsman. Never got a chance to meet him. He passed before I was born. But he was an apprentice and worked for a guy that was in roofing and spouting in downtown Lancaster. And again, I talked about cleaning my grandfather's office out. I was actually able to find an agreement written between this man and my great-grandfather, where my great-grandfather started to buy into this business. Because he was a very talented craftsman. I think this fellow saw something in him. And so that was kind of the start of the journey of Goodhart Sons Incorporated. So I think from working in that two-man shop, which, again, never met the man, never saw the building, but it was probably, I'm going to guess, 600 square feet. It was very, very humble beginnings. I told you my grandfather was that entrepreneurial spirit. He worked in the business when it was at its original location, but I think he saw something, and he saw a path forward for expansion. Probably late 60s, early 70s. I think, I don't know the exact date, but the Clean Air Act came out. I would say early 70s, and pollution control was a big hot topic. And he was well positioned with some of the relationships he had in the industry to start building dust collection systems, bag houses, anything pollution control generated due to the Clean Air Act. And there was an abundance of work, and I think he rode that train and really built the foundation of expansion, on that back in the day. Transfer to Generation 3, my father, my uncles, they kind of just took what was built then, and they had another expansion back in I think it was in '96 that they further built that. They came when they took over. I know they had some debt that they had to buy out and to try to clear, and so they did that. And the way I feel, they worked tirelessly in that third generation, which often you see family businesses that are Generation 3, things go haywire. Our generation, our third generation owners, they were all in owners. We learned a ton from them. They all put the sweat equity in and taught us that you've got to be an all-in owner. Roll up your sleeves, get it done. But I really truly feel that they absolutely set us up for success for Generation 4 because of how smart they worked, how hard they worked, how not selfish they were. They just did all the right things to set our Generation 4 up for success.
So how's that kind of push you, because you're directly family with fifth generation, how's that kind of push you today to kind of make those right decisions every day? Do you have a certain thought in the back of your mind, hey, I know my grandfather did great things, my great-grandfather did great things, I kind of want to keep pushing that forward. Is that kind of a hard thing to deal with?
No, it's all we know.
Yeah.
It's not hard. I mean, listen, work's hard, the grind is hard, but it's been just drilled into us from day one. And we were taught because they all led by example. It wasn't just words. We saw it each and every day. And so we know no other way. We know, we've got new hires that come on that maybe worked elsewhere, and they hear, well, I can't believe how active you guys as owners are in the business, and we are. We're all in. It's kind of neat because we're all, my brother heads up our field service division. I've got another brother, Matt, who is a project manager in our field service division. He travels the country. I've got a cousin, Mike, who's really just, I work hand in hand with him each and every day. Heather certainly knows that. He's our director of operations. So we're all kind of spread out amongst the various components of the business, but we were all raised right to just work hard and roll up your sleeves and don't ever ask anybody to do something that you want to yourself.
Where do you see like the kind of goes off the last question, and each of you guys can answer. How do you see the company's changed since you started, and where do you see it going, or wish it could go? What direction you see it at?
Well, there's been. I mean, I remember. I'll date myself a little bit here, but I remember out of college when we got RFQs, they were FedExed to us. So there was no email. We had a fax machine, and when it was a big day when we got an RFQ in. Oh, we got an RFQ. You open the FedEx box, you stick the drawings in. I'm sure there's others that that are in the industry that will be able to relate to that.
Just basically like a quote, I guess.
Yeah, a request for quotation. And so and you got a big stack or roll. It came in a big tube generally. And, you unfold the paper.
The drawings.
The drawings.
Yeah.
You get them out. But I remember those days. I remember, if you went out to a meeting, a pink lighting or outnotes on my desk. Because we didn't have voicemail. I hear you laugh, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can't even fathom it. Right?
I know.
I feel like I'm turning into my dad here. He told me like this similar type stories. But to today, the pace, it's unbelievable. I mean, we can get 5 or 6 RFQs in a day. And we're processing them, getting drawings, sorted, plotted out, trying to figure out how we're going to quote this. And the pace of business, probably more than anything, from how it used to be, is just incredibly swift.
Yeah, I would say since I had come in, I had mentioned at one point that the website was kind of outdated. That was just something that was an observation on my part. Maybe foolishly was like, yeah, I can help you guys with this, just because my previous job I had some interfacing with marketing and thought I knew exactly what they were doing, and pretty quickly figured out that okay, there's a lot more that goes into this, but took that on as a project, and that's been a huge part. I'd like to think at least of getting our name out there and who we are and people, kind of building brand trust. We are very fortunate that a number of our customers are repeat customers. I don't know this year's statistic, but recently it was 85% of our customers were repeat customers, which is fantastic, to be able to do business through word of mouth in that way. But as you look to grow and expand, you want to reach new people. You want people to know who you are. And so if you don't necessarily have that brand trust of having worked with somebody for decades, how do you build that? So that's kind of been something that I've focused on with changing the business, growing business, expanding it, is making sure, we're getting into SEO. We're posting on social media, we're doing blog posts, we're doing news and updates about our employees. So that's been, I think, one of the biggest things that I've seen change since I came home.
How's your experience kind of been as a non-family member in the family business? Because I think we all can see how much pride you have in the company.
Oh, yeah.
So how's your experience kind of been?
I don't know. I feel like it's easy to sort of carry that pride because, again, when you work with people who are walking the walk and talking the talk, then it's just kind of like, I can get on board with this. I can definitely make something happen with this. I mean, personally, just kind of how I'm built, I'm going to treat whatever company I am with as if it's my own business. I want to make sure that I am doing what I do for the benefit of the greater good. So I've really enjoyed being able to put concerted energy into a company that I feel like it's absolutely worthwhile to be doing that. As a non-family member, I've been asked a couple times, are you part of the family? And I'm always like, oh no, and immediately these guys are like, yeah, basically. Yeah, which is cool.
We'll go to events and someone will be like, is this your son? To like Dan or I? It's just funny. But it's cool to see someone be able to grow in a family business but not be part of the family business.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not part of the side family you are. So it's just cool to see others kind of grow.
Yeah.
And it extends to, we have our executive management team, our director of HR, our director of IT, our CFO, they're all non-family members. But to see them just, such a well-oiled machine and gel together and just doing great things for our family business. It's really
Touching on that too, and I want to make sure that we talk about this because I just think it's so unique to our business. I'm sure we're not the only ones ever, but we have multi-generational employees. So very recently here we had 2 supers retire, and their sons are now stepping into their shoes, and I think you should talk about that a little bit more and the impact that has too.
Yeah, and in fact, I was recently down in Washington D.C. joined the family business enterprise to go build for advocacy for family businesses. Had a chance to speak to some people on the hill down there, and this is one thing that I talked about, and there was some oohs and ahs in the crowd when I said it, but we had 2 superintendents that one was with us for 44 years. The other one was with us for 2 stints. He was with us for, I'm going to say 25 years, went and explored other things and came back to us and finished his career there. We hired through their journey both of their sons. And one of the superintendent's son was, again, never worked in fab, never welded, never did much of that at all. But we saw the attitude, we saw the DNA, and we said, well, we'll bring him on board. And the same with our other superintendent. We hired his son on pretty early on in his career. And it was never a foregone conclusion that they were going to become our superintendents. They had to work for it. But the apples didn't fall far from the tree, so to speak. And cream always rises to the top, as my dad always said. And it did. But they both retired, and one superintendent retired this past June. Our other superintendent retired back in 22, and these guys have both been recently promoted, and they're hitting it out of the park. They're doing a really, really good job for us.
That says a lot about our company. Not only having multi-generation families in the company that are not family, but also having an employee work there for 25 years, go try something new, and still being willing to take them back.
Yeah,
they're willing to come back too, obviously, which that says a lot about our company.
Yeah.
I wanted
also for the kids that are like their sons, they see that their dads had good success at the company too, so that
100%. And to me, there's no greater flattery. There's no greater mark of success to me as an owner than to see an employee bring his son into the business, right? Because he is letting his son come into an environment that is a good environment and he can be successful. And there's no greater mark of just flattery for me than that.
okay. Like if you're not a good company, a guy's not going to take his son.
instead of trust.
Yeah.
Kids to be better than you.
Yeah.
You want to send them to a place that you work. It has to be cool for you to see, like, hey, I knew your dad. Like, I'm sure, like, you'll see moments or, like, flashes of, like, hey, that like, seemed like your dad kind of.
Oh my God, absolutely.
That's like awesome.
Totally see each other.
Yeah. Which that has to be awesome, too, because, like, they're not family, but, like, they're kind of building something. But I feel like I'm part of the same family. It's just cool to see, like, companies kind of align with that. My final question, if you have anything else or anything you guys want to hit, we always ask this question. What advice do you wish you gave, or someone gave you when you were 21? I'm 22 now, we're getting older, he's 23. It's just his birthday. So what advice do you
Started
guys-
asking that when we were 22.
I think I was 19 when we started asking. But what advice do you wish someone had to leave you with?
I'll let you answer.
There's a lot of things that you can do with a good attitude. I definitely, being younger in my career, maybe a little bit more hot-headed, maybe a little bit more stubborn in my approach to things. But when I applied with Goodhart Sons, I know I kind of came into it just like, not with my tail between my legs, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm just here to learn. Like, I just want to learn, and I know there's a lot to learn, so, like, show me the way, kind of, just just understanding that you really don't know everything, and that's probably a lot of people probably say that, right? But it's because hindsight's 20/20, you know, and it's true. If you have a willingness to learn, you can get hired somewhere that you have no experience, and they're willing to teach you. You know what I mean?
It's great. Not every place does that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Learning doesn't stop at school.
Yeah.
I think for me, and I've tried to teach this to others, and I've learned this the hard way, is have a delayed reaction. Just don't immediately react. Think about it, process it, let it marinate before you react and fire back. In my career journey, there's been many times something came out and I wish I could take it back. I like to think that I've gotten better at that as I've progressed through my career, and but I think that's something, you know, it's just been a life lesson for me, that just a delayed reaction.
That's honestly great advice for young people. I feel like that hit home for me, because learning to sleep on it, give it a day. Because I'm sure we all can look back on a lot of things like things happen, you say something, but then you feel totally different. Instead, you feel bad.
You do. Or you rate that email. Okay, I'm gonna walk away
We've done
from
that a
that,
couple times.
and I'm gonna just delete that, and we're gonna start over in like 2 hours.
That's the advice you give in.
I've done it myself.
Yep.
But I think that's an important.
It's great advice, not even at work,
It's just
in your relationship, everything. So this has been great. We do part 2 sometimes with episode talk, and I definitely see a part 2 soon.
I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, we just appreciate you guys coming on. Like I said, it was great to come through your guys' facility, and you do amazing stuff.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys as well.
We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you.